Tonight we're making one of my family favorites, Mexican quinoa and vegan quesadillas. And I'm hungry, so let's get cooking. To get started, we need to rinse our quinoa. If you've never had quinoa before or you think you don't like it, it may be because you haven't rinsed it. Rinsing quinoa helps take away some of that bitterness that you get when you eat quinoa. So we need 2 cups of quinoa. I'm almost out. Give me just 1 second. I do have some in my pantry downstairs, so I'm going to run grab that. If you want to get a peek inside my pantry and get an idea of what you need to make a good plant-based pantry, I'm getting ready to make a video about that. I will put a link in the description box below so you can watch that. For now, give me 1 minute while I go downstairs and get some more quinoa. All right, let's see if we can get our 2 cups. There we go. This quinoa has 5 grams of protein for just a 1/4 cup serving. So this is a great one to add to your meal planning if you are worried about getting enough protein in your diet. I need to add some water to this and let it soak for a second. While that's soaking, I'm going to go ahead and get my other ingredients started in my skillet. So I just need to add some onions and peppers to my skillet. I do a lot of chopping on Sunday, so I already have onions and peppers chopped up. And it's a good idea, if you want to go plant-based, to get that chopping done ahead of time. It sure does make weeknight dinners go quicker. So I just need a cup of onions and a cup of peppers. I do like to add a little oil to my onions and peppers when I cook. It's not necessary if you want to go oil-free, but I do think it helps a little bit with flavor. So let's let that cook for a few minutes until the onions and peppers are soft. And while that's cooking, I think we can go ahead and rinse out our quinoa. So after my quinoa soaks for just a few minutes, I go ahead and just give it a quick rinse, so that all of the powdery residue that sits on the quinoa is cleaned off before I add it to my pan. So let's let that sit there until we're ready for it. If you're sauteing your onions and peppers and you're not using a nonstick skillet, or it feels a little bit dry in your pan, you can add a little bit of water, and that will help them cook a little faster, and it will also keep them from sticking to the bottom. While the onions and peppers are cooking, I want to make a quick topping for our quesadilla. And to do that, I'm going to use my handy dandy chopper. If you don't have one of these, you're really missing out, because I use this all the time for my Sunday chopping that day. So let's get our onions chopped first. I'm going to use a purple onion for this because it's prettier, and also every color adds a different phytochemical to your food. So having purple and green and red and yellow and all the different colors are going to make sure we have good nutrition, we have good phytochemicals that help us fight off our diseases. One reason people think these things don't work is because on the box they have a whole onion sitting here and they try to chop it that way. It does not work, trust me. But if you put slices in there, then you are going to get some really nicely diced onions. You can put cucumbers in here, you can put carrots in here. I even get tomatoes in here, especially when it's not tomato season and they're a little firmer than they should be. So let's get chopping. What's great about this is I don't have great knife skills, but this makes my chopping look so neat and tidy. So my pico is pretty. You can put more than one slice in here too if you spread them out a little bit. I don't need all these onions for my quesadillas, so I'm going to go ahead and put these in a container, and then we'll go ahead and mix the pico up. But I think the onions and peppers are ready, so I need to get that quinoa cooking. It's a fast cooking grain, only takes 15 minutes to cook, so we'll be ready for dinner in just a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and add some garlic, and I am using jarred garlic here, and I'm going to add in some cumin. I'm going to give that a stir, and I want my garlic and my cumin to toast just a little bit with my onions and peppers, and then I'm going to add in my rinsed quinoa. There you go. So while that's toasting a bit, let's get the liquid ingredients together. We're also going to need a can of black beans and a can of corn, so I'm going to drain the liquid out of those. The only reason I toast it a little bit is to add just a smidge of flavor, but it also gets some of the excess water out from when I rinsed it. So in go a can of black beans and a can of corn. And now we're going to need 4 cups of liquid. So let me show you your options for the 4 cups of liquid. You can always use a vegetable broth. It's easy to find at the grocery store. I don't think it adds a lot of flavor, so I like to add some of this vegetable broth. It's better than bouillon vegetable broth, which is very good. Or I'll use some of my McKay's chicken style seasoning, which is very good also. Both are easy to use, and we add them in with our 4 cups of water. Both of these call for a teaspoon per cup. So I'm going to add 4 teaspoons of this one to my quinoa. So a tablespoon has 3 teaspoons, so I need a tablespoon plus a teaspoon. And I'm just going to guesstimate on this. Get that stirred in. That was about a tablespoon, and I'm going to do a little extra for the teaspoon. Stir that one in. Now the bouillon is very salty, so you don't need to add too much salt. I'm just going to add a smidge of salt to this. Put a lid on. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it boils, I turn down the heat. It cooks for 15 minutes and dinner's ready. So we need to get our quesadillas going. The last thing we need to chop with our little chopper is tomatoes. I'm going to make them into slices. And then we put those slices right into our chopper. Okay, let's mix up our quick pico. We're going to start with some tomatoes. When we start with tomatoes, we can judge how much of everything else we want to add to it. So let's go ahead and add in some green onions. I love scallions. They're one of my favorite onions, but I want all of these because I'm also adding purple onions. There's a few purple onions. So I've already washed and dried my cilantro, and I only need a little bit for this pico. I do want to make a nice cilantro cream sauce. It's going to replace like a sour cream that would go on this, and it's really good. So I'm going to chop a little extra. All right, that looks great. There's our cilantro. Let's go ahead and add some to our pico. Doesn't that look fantastic? I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to save the cilantro to go on top of our quinoa, and now let's get our beans together for our quesadilla. A lot of times I'll cook a big pot of dry beans on Sunday to use throughout the week, but this Sunday was super busy. I didn't have time, so I'm going to go ahead and use canned beans. I'm going to use these canned refried black beans. I like them a lot. They taste great, and they're really a good convenience if you don't have time to cook from dry, because beans are beans however you look at it, and they're good for you. You just need to add your beans to a bowl. I like to spice up my beans just a bit by adding some salsa to them. It adds great flavor, and it also adds another veggie. I'm just going to stir that salsa into the beans. It also makes it easier for your quesadillas. Otherwise, your quesadilla could be a little slushy if you try to add salsa on top. Now for our quesadillas, we have our beans and our pico, and I'll show you what we're going to use instead of cheese in just a minute. Before I do that, though, I do want to make our cilantro cream sauce. The cilantro cream sauce is extra, but I've noticed when it comes to Mexican food especially, everything's in the sauce. So for the cilantro cream sauce, it comes together super quick, everything goes in my blender, and it's not really a necessary item to have with this meal, but I do like to add an extra sauce because sauces really do make a meal better. So for this one, we're going to use a little bit of tofu, and we're going to use a little bit of mayonnaise. So let's add in some silken tofu. Oops. I always keep this more new silken tofu on hand because it's super convenient. It adds creaminess to everything. Then I'm just going to add a couple tablespoons of mayonnaise to the tofu. We're going to add a bunch of garlic, or we're going to add a bunch of cilantro. I'm not making a huge amount of this sauce because we're just eating it for today, and it's going to be the 2 of us. So I'm going to add a little cilantro, and then we're going to add a little bit of garlic. If I had fresh garlic today, I would use it in this recipe because it does make it a smidge better, but jarred garlic is fine. After that, we just need a little bit of lime juice. And if you like something spicy, we're going to add a little jalapeno to that. Again, if I had a fresh jalapeno on hand, I would use it, but I don't today. So I'm just going to add a couple of these because we're not high spice people in our family. But if you are high spice people, you go ahead and put a whole jalapeno in there. And the last thing I need is just a smidge of salt. Put the lid on. And I'm going to go into my pantry and blend this thing up. I'll be right back. I wanted to add a little bit of green onion to that, so I'm going to put a smidge of that in there. Or I might just put all the whole rest of that in there. And I'm going to put the lid on. I'm going to blend this one more time, and it's going to be all done. Our cilantro cream sauce is done. Look how good that looks. I'm going to pour this into my bowl. Our quinoa is just about done, so I'm going to start making our quesadillas. I wanted to show you the tortillas that I like to use. These are the extreme wellness quesadillas. They are very high in protein. There's only 60 calories per tortilla, and there's also 4 grams of protein in one of these. I will tell you that this does have a little bit of a healthy taste to it, if you know what I mean. And if your family's not up for that, you can go ahead and use a white flour tortilla. This dinner is very high in protein already. It's very high in fiber. It's rich in vegetables. So using a flour tortilla is not going to hurt when you're making this dinner. And if you're gluten-free, you can always use a corn tortilla, or if you just like the flavor of corn tortilla. They're really good you can make a quesadilla out of that. I know it's not traditional, but it's really tasty. I'm going to get started with the Olé Extreme tortillas. I'm going to make a couple to start with, and then I can make more later. I always use beans as the base of my quesadilla, so I'm going to put half of this so that I can just fold the quesadilla in half. And we'll do half of this one. There we go. And then I'm going to add in some of my Pico. This adds so much delicious, fresh flavor to your quesadilla. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, where's the queso? This is a quesadilla. You need cheese. Well, that's a really good question. I don't like to use a lot of the vegan cheeses. Although if your family likes them, you could add some of this Aldi's brand vegan cheddar. But what I really like to do is, after I cook these, I like to dip these in the cashew cheese sauce, and it's so much better than putting it inside. At least that's my opinion. So you can do it however you like. I also have a recipe for some cilantro lime soy curls that I use in my Santa Fe salad. I'll put a link in the description box below. It's on my blog. If you're using a nonstick pan, you can put these right into the pan. But if you want to add a little crispness to it, you can add a little bit of oil to your pan, or you can add a little cooking spray to that, and that'll give a nice little crispness to your tortilla. While those are cooking, I'm going to cut up an avocado, and we're going to be ready for dinner. It's a good one. I love when you get a good avocado. I'm going to dice this avocado to add it to my quinoa. So I'm just going to cut it like this. By cutting it in the shell, it saves a lot of mess, and it keeps it from kind of mushing together. And from that, we'll just use a spoon to scoop it out. Easy as pie. As if pie were easy. The quesadillas look really good. I'm so excited about this dinner tonight. It's one of my favorites. I'm going to put all the stuff that I've made out for add-ins to our quinoa bowl, as well as to put on top of our quesadillas. So we have some extra beans. We have our pico, some diced avocado, some cilantro. We have our cilantro cream sauce. That's really good. And this is my cashew cheesy sauce. Now this recipe I've given you already. It's in my appetizers video for the queso dip, and I'll put that link in the description box below. I always have some of that on hand. I don't always put the Rotel tomatoes in it, but it's always in the fridge. It makes great instant macaroni and cheese. It's great in a grilled cheese sandwich. It's good on a panini. We use it for any type of Mexican style dish, so I'm going to, I'll make sure you get that recipe, but I'm going to dip my quesadillas into that. That's going to be really good. What else do we need? We have some extra onions if we want to throw those in there. Oops. Our quesadillas are done. I'm going to put them on here for cutting. See how fast that came together? I just want to cut them into triangles. They are a little messy, but isn't Mexican food supposed to be messy? If it wasn't messy, it wouldn't be good. There we go. Okay. Doesn't that quinoa look fantastic? All right, let's get our supper together. So the quinoa and the quesadillas are all done. This is a fantastic meal to serve if you don't want to have to make 2 dinners for your plant-based eaters and your meat eaters in your family, because you could always serve some shredded chicken on the side that they can add to the quesadillas or to the bowl, and you can also have some cheese on the side for that too. So the way I serve it, plant-based like, we're going to make a nice bowl with our quinoa. To that quinoa, I'm going to go ahead and add some of my avocado. I'm going to add some of my cheesy sauce. Look at that cheesy sauce, it looks so good. And then we're going to add some Pico, because that can't be bad. And I'm going to add some of my cilantro sauce. The secret's all in the sauce, man. The secret's always in the sauce. And a smidge of cilantro to the top. And that's our bowl. But I want to also have some quesadillas, so we're ready to eat. I've got my quinoa and my quesadilla, and let me show you how I like to eat this. I like to just dip it right in to the cheese. And that's fantastic. The way my husband likes to eat this is he likes to mix his quinoa all together and put it right on top of those quesadillas. Then he just eats it with a fork. And that's really good too. This is one family-friendly, high-protein, plant-based dinner that will not disappoint. This dinner has so much flavor, you're not going to miss the meat or the cheese. If you need more family-friendly, plant-based recipes, then check out this playlist right here.